everybody. This is Patty. Welcome to the witching hour. Yes, the hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. We have some beautiful magic from you today, all the way from across the pond in Glastonbury, the UK. The one and only Celtic wise woman, Danú Forest. Welcome, Danu. Thank you for coming
Hello.
to the
Hello.
show.
It's such a delight to be on here. It's so lovely to meet you at last.
I know. I am so thrilled to have you on. I love your magic. I love what you do. But for anybody about who doesn't understand, you've got several books out.
Mm.
You are a Celtic wise woman. So what exactly is that?
Right. Well, I go with the term wise woman these days because I've been on this road for such a long time. I started my training when I was 11 and I'm now 51. So that's 40 years of continuous practice. And over those years, I've been fully trained in old craft covens and Wicca, and then I've trained as a shaman, and I've trained in kind of high magic and Kabbalistic stuff and things like that. And increasingly, I've gone back more and more and more to my roots and to my ancestry. So now I practice increasingly Celtic-based folk magic, and I'm half Irish, and love, I love living in the UK, and I love this landscape here, and I also love Ireland dearly. And increasingly, I just find that that's the way for me to work. That works in this land and works for my spirits, really. So, yeah. And a traditional term for that would be a banfassa or a wise woman. So that's what I've gone with over the years. I was practicing Druid for a long time. I still am, but yeah, essentially now I'm finding that I'm just honing into my own craft and my own way of doing things, which is lovely. Uncovering lots of old ways.
That is lovely. And where you live, the Glastonbury area is just the most beautiful, some of the most beautiful area I've ever seen. And it is a magical little city right there. That's the one place I bought things from my whole very magical tour of the UK. And it was great.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's a beautiful community here and a wonderful landscape. Yeah, loads and loads of myths and legends and incredible history and so many things like, famous hauntings and ley lines and dragons and knights in armor and medieval witches and everything. We've got all of it here. It's wonderful.
I'm ready to go back. I'm jumping on a plane.
Oh, well, the kettle's always on.
So you are Irish. How did your Celtic tradition begin? Were you born into it with the Banfesta, or is it something you discovered at a young age? I mean, obviously you were 11, you were a baby.
Mm. Well, I mean, basically, one side of my family, my grandmother's side, she comes from Northern England, and she was involved in what they call the spiritualist churches over here. I think you might have something like that in the States.
We do. No, this is spiritualist church.
Yeah, mediumship and everything like that. And everybody in my family sees spirits in one way or another. They've all got stories to tell. And she was extraordinary woman, really, really psychically gifted. And so I grew up with encountering the spirits of the dead and landscape spirits and tree spirits and things like that. It's just been kind of normal, something that I could just discuss with her at any time. And obviously that doesn't really fitted me. My generation, of course, witchcraft, paganism, Wicca and everything like that was opening up beautifully for me as I was becoming an adult. And so I just naturally sort of fell into working magically and spiritually in a way that reflected my lived experience. And over the years, I've just honed that down. My father's side of the family, they all come from the Boyne Valley in Ireland, and that's a really magical landscape. But it wasn't until I was a little bit older that I started to really study the Celtic traditions in real depth. And that's when everything just really clicked. That's when I stopped wandering around and started to feel like I just resonated really, really deeply with one particular path, which is lovely. It's a real honor to sort of have roots in such an incredible landscape. So they speak very powerfully working with those spirits. They were kind of always tugging at me to find them, and then I did. So
I am sure. And with my path, again, the most magical place I've been is where you live, and of course, Ireland. How does that landscape, the place, and the local spirit itself affect your work daily? Is it part of it? Like,
well, constant.
Or London, or
yeah. Well, it's part of everything that I do, and it's really interesting because it calls to so many people around the world that don't live here or just visit or want to visit. So I kind of feel like I'm part of a really ancient tradition of kind of hosting and welcoming people to work with this landscape and to kind of listen to that call within them. Avalon and Glastonbury is so powerful magically and spiritually, and it has such a strong position in our mythology and our literature and stuff in this country. There's so many different faiths living in Glastonbury that it's a real honour to be kind of part of that really long tradition, and just it's part of my everyday life. But I never forget how special it is, because people come all the time. You just get to see so many people from so many different walks of life and welcome them here. It's really, really touching. It's special every day.
And I think whatever their belief systems, I'm really big on the awareness for our poor little planet now, back on nature, tree spirits and fae and all that. And I notice people are thankfully looking again down to earth, to trees, plants. And I think that's so needed, just to save our little
Well,
planet.
absolutely.
Yes.
There are some places on earth that seem kind of sleepy or neglected. And I'm so privileged to live in a landscape that's so vibrant and alive and honoured and worked with, because, not very far from here, there's other places where there's an awful lot of environmental destruction and things like that. And it's much harder, I think, and so much more needed to work in those places than here. I'm in a very privileged spot, I think.
Yeah, no, and we have some issues in our country with our environmentalism and stuff, so we just have to work that much harder. So your latest book is Celtic Tree Magic and Ogham Lore, correct?
Oh, no, that was a few years ago.
That was a
This is my latest. This is that one. This one's been out quite a long time now.
Let's talk about your latest one first, and then I do want to talk about, because got this tree thing going.
Yeah.
Well, I got that wrong, but tell us about your book.
My latest book, Cunning Folks' Book of Cottage Witchcraft, and this is really, really to do with my daily practice, living here out in a very wild place. I'm a few miles from Glastonbury Tor, so I'm surrounded by nature reserves and marshes and farmland and things like this. And it's a very different landscape than living in town. And it's really about what magic you do at home, what magic you can do in your immediate landscape. So it's all about connecting with your land, growing, plants and herbs and magical herbs and things like that you can work with, and ways that you can apply your magic in a daily practice, really, for all sorts of different subjects. So I've got loads of traditional spells in this book. I spent a lot of time, I do an awful lot of academic work as well, looking into the history of witchcraft and cunning folk and wise women practices and things like that, and folk magic. And basically, this is a lot of my daily practice, but also my research. So there's spells and things in here. Half the book is packed with how-tos and spells and magic charms and things that are hundreds of years old that I haven't found in other places. So it was really great to kind of compile them, and everything in it I've done myself and worked with myself, but it's really lovely to preserve them and to share them to people who will use them.
Yes. Yeah. So if somebody's somebody's fairly new to this world and wanted, and again, I'm big on daily rituals and daily practices and things. If somebody gets overwhelmed, again, your book sounds like a perfect place to start. But is there one or two things you think somebody who's just starting out could start with to feel what this feels like, to get into it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this book is really aimed at beginners or people with more advanced practices, but it sets you straight on essentially folk magic from Britain and Ireland. So this isn't fancy highbrow stuff. This is for anybody to work with that feels the call. And it's things that are really, really directly applicable. So stuff like setting up a home altar, stuff like kind of, how to work with a broom, how to bless and cleanse your house, things like that. Really, really simple stuff. One thing that I always advise in this tradition is the practice of seining, which is mostly found in Scotland, but you find the same practices under slightly different terms elsewhere. And it's a little bit like the term smudging, as in using white sage and things.
Right.
That's our Indigenous term, seining. So it's Scottish mostly. But instead of using sage, we would use mugwort or juniper. And it's just, I always advise connecting with the spirits of plants, growing them if you can, But essentially, you go anti-clockwise around your house and your doors and your windows, and you burn these sacred herbs and to cleanse the energy. So, it's a really simple thing that can be done in 10 minutes often to just keep your home tip-top energetically. And yeah, having an altar, lighting a candle and respecting and honoring the spirit of your house, seeing your home as a sacred place, but also in an animist kind of sense, as in it's alive. The spirit of your house itself is something to make friends with. And I feel like that's really central to all of this is relationships. So no matter how much experience you've got, you can sit in your house and go, hi, I would like to work with you magically. Will you help me out? And just put out little offerings to the spirits of your house, light a little candle every now and then to just go, hi, spirit of the house. Thank you for keeping me warm this winter. Things like that.
Yeah, I think I even need to do more of that. I do similar on what we call smudging and this and the couch clockwise, but I have somebody stealing things from right now. And I don't mean a burglar. I mean within the house, things that are too big to be missing.
Yeah.
Is it coming to you, the expert wise woman? Who do I leave out an offering for? Do I look at the fae? Do I look at?
That does sound like household spirits. They would be kind of come under terms like fairies and fae, but it very much depends what kind of thing. But often I have some here, and every now and then something will go missing, and it's because they really like it or because they're just trying to get my attention. So I listen very much. I spend some time and I go, hey, this is gone. Why is it gone? Why have you taken it? What's the situation? And I just really tune in. Sometimes I'll get a clear message and sometimes I'll get a feeling. Or sometimes I will remember something. I'll just remember a little scene or a little thing that happened in the day. And if I just take 5-10 minutes to kind of unpack it a little bit, just quietly sat there, I will realize that's coming to me because that's part of what they want to communicate. So these things communicate in so many different ways, don't they? But household spirits can be very tricksy if they're unhappy for some reason, or they want to say hi. So yeah, offerings is really important. I think I recommend that all the time. It's giving them something.
I actually just found a little offering dish I have used for the fae in the past. It has the shape of a daisy and it has little that each one you could put a separate little sauce in. And I remember it was Beltane Eve. Years ago, I put a little honey and a little cream in each one.
Perfect.
And together it looked like a cappuccino or something. In the morning, and I made a wish with had just honey and 3 had just cream. They had moved it all around. Nobody had down there. It was magical. And I just 2 days ago found that same little, just this most magical little tiny, whatever you want to call it, a bowl, a thing. But they're just taking everything right now.
Cream and honey are perfect. They are traditional things. And that's just perfect. It's wonderful, isn't it, that the same traditions go on here for hundreds and hundreds of years. You'll see the same over in Ireland and you'll see the same in the States. It's just wonderful how these traditions survive and how those of us practicing now, when we feel into what are we going to give them, that's what feels right.
It feels right. Yeah. Well, your PhD work is on fairy faith and folk, right? Which the whole magic that is. Well, and the folk magic, so again, I think it's more and more. How vital is that to you in our modern world?
I feel like it's essential, actually. I really do. I mean, it's, I love it. I love working in that way. And I think I'm a natural kind of law keeper. I'm somebody who naturally wants to know the roots of things, wants to find out the kind of old traditions, wants to find out history for things. That's really part of what I do. I mean, aside from my magical spiritual practice, that's in my temperament somehow. But I'm finding so much dedicating time to this research that I feel like I'm finding treasure after treasure after treasure that's either forgotten or has been neglected or has been viewed through the lenses of perhaps generations in the past where it's, there's patriarchy, there's things like the kind of colonialist view, there's kind of Christianized views looking at non-Christian practices, and traditional kind of Gaelic things were often a hybrid. So they weren't necessarily Christian magic or Christian as we would understand it, practitioners practicing. So when you look at it from the point of view of somebody like us that would use these things, you read it in a different light than perhaps you would if you weren't in that context. And I just feel like it's a real privilege to be finding all these things and hopefully passing them on to the next generation, and generations after. For me, they're treasures to look after in a historical sense, but they are living treasures for us to work with as practitioners.
Right. That's great. And I love that you're bringing back old ones, hundreds of years old. There's so many new people to the craft and new to the magical world, but they have, a month worth of knowledge or
Yeah,
two, not know the old ways. They think we were all invented, 30 years ago or something.
yeah. But I mean,
So,
that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And like in some ways, you don't need to know very much to be doing
right.
amazing things and weaving really good magic. It's a constantly new, constantly refreshing and reviving kind of practice. But at the same time, if you've got traditions and if you've got history behind you, you know your roots, something else can come in that's stronger. And often it's really not as intimidating as it might sound. I love to spend time when I meditate on these things and I look over old practices when I'm reading old sort of folk tales about wiser men in the past and things. I like to remember that a lot of these people, the sort of magic that I like to practice, they weren't rich and powerful scholarly people. They were mothers and grandmothers. Yeah. They were people that lived in small farms and homesteading, and they wove their own clothes and they made all their own food, and they, they lived really, really close to the land, really, really simply. And their magic is often very simple, but very powerful because of that. So it's not something that you need loads of fancy equipment for, or you need any fancy terms for. If you understand how they did things and why they did things, then it's very easy to apply it now. And a lot of the time, it's just sitting and tuning in and building relationships with the spirits around you. And once you can do that, so much more can grow from it.
Right. Oh, that's beautiful. Now you work with people, right? And teach. So do you, and especially like some of these older paths and stuff, do you start out with the lore? Do you end the lore or the land work with people or with
I
ritual?
find they work with each other. They
Uh-huh.
naturally inform each other. It's really amazing. I wondered at first when I started to get really into research how it would reflect on my relationship with the land and how it would change my practice. Would it make me think that some things were wrong or disillusion me in some way? And it's actually done quite the opposite. So it kind of keeps reminding me how magical the land is, how vital it is that we have a strong relationship with the landscape and that we're out on the land as much as possible. And, I've lived in built up areas and parts of my life. I've lived now in rural Somerset for half my life. But for the half before that, I was in London for large spans of time. And I know cities really well. And even there, you can contact the powers of place. You can contact the spirits of the land. Even in most built up places, you can contact the she and contact the fairies, Then we are never separate from nature, no matter what we think. And when you do that, you tune in and have a really big, powerful power source, essentially, for the magic that you're doing. Like aligning with the weather rather than fighting against it.
I love it. So then let's go back to your other book, Celtic Tree Magic and Ogham Lore. So explain this with people right there. Yeah, I'm excited about that book as well. I have both of them. Yeah.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Well, yeah, the Ogham. This is a book I wrote quite a few years ago, but it's still so popular. I'm really, really honored. So the Ogham is like people call it a tree alphabet. That's not really it. It's not the most accurate way of putting it, but it's a good shorthand way of putting it. So the Ogham is like a mnemonic device. It's a an alphabet of sorts that was used to carve memorials and messages onto wood and onto stone. And the earliest ones are at a time where kind of it's mostly found in Ireland, and when Christianity was coming in, but there was still a lot of pre-Christian pagan practice going on. So there will be things like the what's actually written in the Ogham in sort of like the 5th century will be things like, here lies there was a wonderful one. Here lies the son of Lu. Here lies Fire Hair or something, the son of Lu. That was it. Wonderful. And that was somebody's name. Yeah. They counted themselves as the son of Lu for some reason. So that's an Irish god of law and solar kind of power and energies. But they were aligning that and they were calling themselves Fire. Yeah. That was a pagan name. So it's incredible. I mean, there's Christianized monuments as well, written in Ogham. But there's all these manuscripts that go back sort of 5th, 6th, 7th centuries and a little later, unpacking the Ogham. And each letter of the alphabet comes with this whole body of law. And not each single letter, but most of them are attributed to tree law. And the others also have kind of a category of knowledge about them that relates to trees and plants. And so when you really get stuck into it, it's like unpacking these kind of endless layers of magical law and tree law and kind of spiritual practice. It's incredible. So on one hand, you could write your name in it. But on the other hand, if you use these things magically, they have all these different resonances. So it's like it goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, which I just find endlessly fascinating and endlessly powerful. I feel like even kind of as a scholar and studying kind of what the experts know about Ogham, we're just scratching the surface of something that was an immense magical system once upon a time in Ireland. And it's just a treasure, an absolute treasure.
That is beautiful. So it both is like a sacred alphabet of sorts, and also use the divination tool, used for ritual, used for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, you see, it has this presence. When you use it magically, it's like, this is different than just writing something in an English alphabet. Each letter has its own spirit. And then it seems to have the spirits of the trees and plants that it relates to. But also it has these things called kennings attached to it. So they're little snippets of Irish mythology and kind of little kind of bits of little scenes and little things that refer to the law. So it's like a spiritual training manual in these really simple 20 sigils, 20 kind of Ogham sigils. Each one, you can study one after another, and it will build on the one before it. So it's like this, it starts with birch for new beginnings, essentially. And then the second one is rowan. And I always find that really interesting. So birch clears the way. It's one of the first trees to start going green at the very turn of the year, early spring. It's used a lot for beating boundaries and keeping energies clear. And then the second one, rowan, is all about protection, but it's protection by awareness, protection by sight, seeing what's around you. And so that is perfect for a magical kind of a really long-term magical project, or for just putting up to protect the space around your home or anything, but also on a spiritual level, starting the year or starting a new phase of your life by kind of clearing the decks with that birch energy, bringing in the new. And then, right, okay, put the shields up, put protection up, make this a safe place, a secure, energetic, the equivalent of a magical circle where the work can take place within. But it's not protected by shields and hard walls. It's protected by developing your awareness. And that is wonderful. So it's much more empowering than hiding behind something. It's the protection of, I can see what's about me.
Yes.
And it goes on and on and on. And the last one is you, which is basically after death, what happens after death. And yew trees are usually found in graveyards and things like that in Britain and Ireland. They live for thousands of years. So it's the opposite kind of tree to birch at the very beginning, which is quite a short-lived tree. But Yu lives for thousands of years. So it goes all the way through this kind of magical spiritual training until you're not at the beginning anymore. You're opening up into the kind of the great beyond, life after death, and all those kind of things, stellar realms, those kind of stuff. So it's incredible. It's endless. I'm never going to stop learning about the Ogham. I'm never going to stop developing how I practice it.
Well, and I too, I've been practicing a long time, like 30
Mm,
plus years, but
yeah.
I've only known about the Ogham in the last few years in the
Wow.
state. I don't, it's nice. I don't know why maybe it's just me, maybe it wasn't as popular as it is now, but that makes me very happy. Because
Wow.
to me, if I need wisdom, I go to a tree.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
will sit down with my spine along the trunk of the tree and just ask for wisdom. So how does that work for you? If a tree speaks or gives you a message, or how do you suggest people do working with symbolism or voices?
Yeah. I think so much comes down to being really present. I teach this a lot as the foundations of all the other magic that I teach, is being really, really present, really here now. And from there, you can train your focus to do so many more things magically or whatever. But like you say, sitting with a tree, aligning your back with the tree, which kind of means that your energy field starts to be aligned with the energy field of the tree. And just breathing, just being present, just letting your mind settle. And sometimes that can come quickly, and sometimes, depending on the situation, it can take a longer amount of time. But it's a really good discipline to get you present and calm. And from that place, rather than a reactive place, from that place, that's when you can really tune in to what the tree spirit might be saying, but also what your intuition might be saying and what any other spirit allies you have might be saying. But trees are the perfect place to start with magic because they steady you. They keep you grounded. They have the roots and the branches. And I always feel like the spiritual side of magic has those two in balance. But as for kind of how I pick up things, it will depend. People in my family have always seen spirits, and I see spirits every day. One thing I find is that sometimes it's got nothing to do with me, what I see. It's not trying to pass on a message any more than if I see somebody in the street, just going about their day. Sometimes something will be shown to me or said to me, and I will hear it or I will see it. And it's a very clear, strong instruction. Other times, I will just feel something. And other times, I will get like a flash of realization or a flash of insight into something. And I've often wondered, it would be easy to say, oh, there's a hierarchy in that between a really powerful, important message is something I see and hear right in front of me. And less important ones, or not being as good at it that day, are the ones that you just feel. But I don't think that's the case, actually. Over the years, I don't think that's the case. I've looked for where the correlations are between this, when this happens, that, and when this happens, that. And I don't really find it in that way. And I don't really notice that happening with my students either. I think it's almost like chaos theory. It's kind of what do you bring that day? And what out there, what spirits are engaging with you and what else is going on. So I think everybody experiences these things in different ways. And I think most people experience them in different ways at different times. And they're all okay. But you just need to cultivate the ability to notice, to pick up on it. And that's where being present really comes down to it. Really being on the land a lot makes you much more earthy and much more present. And that's not always associated with magic. People think magic can be kind of quite up here. But I find being rooted is the best way to work with spirits and the best way to work with magic.
Right.
It's then not my strength I'm relying on. I'm relying on the strength of that big oak tree behind me.
That big, and you can, I mean, in the most cities of city, you can find a tree.
Woo,
London,
absolutely.
there's beautiful trees everywhere. I have not found a place that could not find a tree.
Yeah. But also, rivers, high places, including the tops of buildings.
Yes.
Old churches are often in really powerful spots on the land. Obviously, how you practice at a church depends on the context. But nonetheless, there's power spots everywhere around the earth, everywhere. You know, often sometimes rivers are even put underground. That happens in some parts of London, and you can still feel it and you can still contact the spirits of the river, even then. So, you know, it all depends. And you just have to do your homework sometimes and, you know, literally get out and go for a walk and you'll find somewhere.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I start every single day outdoors,
Mm.
unless it's thundering rain or shine or
Mm.
cold. Don't get that hot or that cold in LA. But it's my sanity. It's my
Yeah.
grounding. It's everything with
Yeah.
animals, with everything. And I live in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
Uh, this is just so magical. And again, I do firmly believe that in the crazy world, the chaos world, the new AI world, we need
Yeah.
this more than
Oh,
ever. The old
well, there's
way,
no substitute, is there?
no,
There's
none.
no substitute for being out on the land and connecting. If you can grow the plants that you use for magic, if you can find sticks to use of the different trees when you're working with the Ogham, if you can, you know, find feathers and river washed stones, there's so much more magic to be found in working like that.
Yes.
But you know, we all started somewhere. And
Yeah.
I always never forget, you know, now I have plenty of outdoor space and I have numerous altars and things like this to work with. And I live in a magical landscape. But I still remember my first tiny little altar in a wooden box that it was at the bottom of my bed in my
Oh,
teenage bedroom. You know, and I had next to nothing. And gradually it built and gradually it grew. And, you know, sitting there, you know, just tuning in with my very first tarot cards and things like this. From tiny acorns grow great oaks, you know. You do
exactly.
what
Oh,
you can do.
that is beautiful. Okay. So I I know people are going to fall in love with you. Tell us
Oh,
a little bit where they can find you, follow you, learn from you, where they can
yeah.
get your books.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my website is danuforest.co.uk. And from there, I do readings and consultations, and I run courses and workshops and one-to-one tuition as well these days, a lot of it through Zoom. So that's a wonderful thing that wasn't really available. Not so when I started, those sorts of things are impossible. So I'm very easily findable. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, and my books are on sale all over the place. I'm very lucky. This one and my Tree Magic book, they're both published by Llewellyn. So they are in fantastic bookshops all across the States, Barnes and Noble and Amazon and everywhere good like that. I think you can buy direct from Llewellyn and you can also buy direct from me. So yeah, I'm very easily findable and I always love hearing from my friends in the States. It's always lovely and a real privilege to share this sort of local magic where I live.
I
It's
love it. I can't wait to go back and I'm going to look you up this time.
good. I hope you do. I hope you do. I would love to
Yes.
spend some time with you. I will
Yes.
show
And
you some special trees.
I would love that. And you'll have to come to LA. I'll show you some palm trees.
I would love that. And I want to meet those spooky dolls.
Yes. That's my latest book is all about haunted dolls.
Oh, they were wonderful. I had a few of those growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Mm, wonderful. Yeah.
Girl.
Victorian China dolls. They were amazing. I wish I
Yeah.
still had them because,
You should-
yeah, perfect things to hold spirits, aren't they?
I think I still have almost every doll I've ever had my entire life. From
Wow.
my Barbie dolls when I was born to my baby dolls. Yeah.
Wow.
Crowded house. I guess that's like little things from me in the other world. So I don't know.
Mm.
Well, thank you, Danu. I would love to have you back. There's so many questions, but you guys check out her books. Follow her on social media. Go to danuforest.com. We all need this kind of magic in our lives.
Oh, bless you. It's so lovely talking to you. Really. I'm happy to do it anytime.
Any last words of wisdom for all of us?
We are nature. We are nature. We cannot not be part of nature. And when we're part of nature, we are one with all of it. All of it. So we are never separate from each other or from the land. No matter how we feel that day, we are never, ever isolated. We are always part of nature. I'm really big on that one.
Awesome indeed. Thank you, Danu. Thank you for bringing magic to the witching hour.
Oh, bless you. Blessings from Avalon.
Thank
You take care.